Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my feel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood, so I am relentless.
Well, this is Keep Hammering Collective, and I'm here with my brother, Taylor Spike. And that's always, people are like, well, wait, he's your brother, but he's got a different last name. That's confusing for people. What do you say about that?
Oh, we got the same mom.
We got the same mom, yeah.
People have stories, though. People have already made up something, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I changed it or you changed it.
Yeah. So just for the backstory, because people don't know and we probably haven't, I mean, how would you know? But so our mom's the same. Your dad is your dad. I have a different dad, or had a different dad. My dad died in 2010. But so my mom got remarried, had me and Pete. We were, brothers. And then she got married to Greg and had you and Megan. And so that's my half brother's you and half sister's Megan, but we just say brother, sister. And then my dad, he married Candy, my stepmom, and they had a son, Justin. So I have a wide variety of brothers and sisters. But for me, it was weird because when we were young, or when you were young, and we're 10 years difference in age. So I moved away from home when I was 17 and, was gone, never came back. You were 7. It's like hard to have really a connection with a 17-year-old and a 7-year-old. What do you remember about me back then? I've never even asked you this.
No, that's a good one. That's good. Well, you were mythical, right?
Mythical. Oh, yeah.
Because
okay.
you always, you were always doing something. And then when you did come home, I remember like when you came home from SOC, that was from Southern Oregon, right? When you were going to school there.
Yeah.
You were going to university, you were playing football. That was somebody to look up to, right? And when you came, you would come and go. And then the bow hunting thing started, and it was you were just untouchable. You were just somebody to look up to. So always the influence was always positive. I mean, other than the regular big brother stuff. I mean, I got picked on, right? That was regular. But,
yeah.
And then correcting me, you always had that role that you would come in. And I remember multiple times you showing up at kind of the right moment to correct me. I remember Megan, our little sister, her and I, 1.5 years apart. And during the summers, we'd fight like animals. And you seemed to always be there to correct me at the moment that I needed to be corrected. So that's what I remember.
Well, I'm glad there's something positive there because at that time of my life, I was, excuse me, thinking back this morning, wondering, God, I probably was just the worst big brother at that time, just because I know what I was doing was, just kind of, it might seem good from the outside, but like what I was dealing with was drinking all the time, not really, not knowing what I was going to do with life. After football was like kind of a lost period. So when I would come back for you, there's a few times like I'd take you hunting.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. Tell us about, what do you remember about hunting?
Oh, geez. My first buck, I remember my first buck, you coming to the school. I was in junior high.
No, Pete came and got you and brought you to me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Pulled me out of school.
Right.
And up whittling. I can vaguely remember up to 2000. I feel like I still kind of could probably drive there.
Really? Yeah.
And then across the canyon, there's this great big buck bedded down on the hillside.
Yeah.
And
that one was, I was up there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. That's all I ever used to do is go up, look. I wasn't even hunting, taking pictures, whatever. All I cared about was being out. And I found this giant, it was like a 5 by, it kind of broke on the one side, but it was 5 on one time, just a classic big blacktail. And he was bedding this reprod, and I'm like, he's going to stay there all day. So I'm like, I need to have somebody kill this buck. And that was your first year hunting, rifle hunting. I think you were 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went down, no cell phones or anything at this time. I went down to Wayne's Market, now it's called Marcoa Community Market or whatever. And I called Pete and I said, hey, you need to go. You were going to Pleasant Hill. I said, go get Taylor out of school, bring him up here. I got the gun, bring him up. And I said, I got this giant buck on him to kill. So this took a while, right? And then we went back up there and sure as shit, we went out to that landing, looked straight across, and that buck was bedded right there. And then it was a matter, and it was actually a long shot. It's like 300 yards. But we got on arrest and everything. Then what happened?
I shot a lot. It was horrible.
But you hit him in the like ankle.
Yeah, I hit him. Yes. Yeah, in the rear ankle. So he started limping and he couldn't get up the hill.
Exactly.
And that's when he bedded back down.
Yeah, got him killed.
Yep.
That was a big buck.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Still have that buck. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
I kept all those. Yeah, there was that. There was a fork of horn. I remember it was getting dark. We were headed down. We were super discouraged. Like, there's a deer. Mm-hmm. But you always had that. Well, now looking back, when you spend that much time out there, you start to notice things are out of place.
Right.
And that's what you could do. Then I would always say, how could he see? There's no way you could see that. But if you drive by it 100 times,
exactly,
it's out of place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but hunting with you was like cheating. Because if I really needed to kill a buck, then I'd call you. Because you always would tell me, oh, here or there. And you're always right. So, but yeah, even after that, though, those skills, spending time in the woods, right? I got that from you. So,
well, I mean, we'll talk about that, but you've taken it to another level now. Then let's see. I do also remember, I can't remember what buck it was. Must have been your third buck or maybe, I don't know which one, but there was one way out it used to be called the 1074. And I used to go out there because it was just a money spot. And you killed this buck and I'm sure you gutted your first one. I don't know about the second one probably, but then maybe this third one, maybe I said, okay, you know how to do it. Do you remember this one?
out on the landing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, down over the. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember. Yeah, that's when I cut my thumb, cutting it by myself.
Yeah. So I said, okay, you got to do this one by yourself. Remember how to do it. And you first try to get that knife in there and just slice your thumb wide open.
And try to pretend I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that was a good one. Like my thumb didn't even work. It was
Yeah.
weird for months.
Did you get stitches in that?
No.
Oh, yeah. That was a bad cut.
Well, I don't want to tell anybody. I remember getting home and washing my hand and going, yeah, that looks a lot worse.
Yeah. I remember I was like, you did that first off and then you're trying to be tough. And I was like, oh, blood going everywhere. And I'm like, okay, fuck, get out of it. I'll do this. And, but you were such a young kid and I'm not a good teacher. I'm more like, I remember us going out and you know how it always is very hard for somebody to see an animal when one person sees it, trying to get the other person to see it in a mess of everything. And I'd be so frustrated, not just you, but anybody.
It's like holding a flashlight for your dad, but that was yours.
Yeah,
it's like, you don't see it. Yeah, no,
I remember grabbing your head like this and pointing your head right at it. And it's just like, you don't see that right there? Probably sometimes you said you did see it, even though you didn't.
I'm sure.
But classic times. Then we also went to the wilderness once. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What was that?
Well, we drove over after you worked all day. Mm-hmm. We were looking for the llamas.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
The eagle caps.
Yeah, we went on a hunting trip. Llamas got loose and disappeared. And so I can't remember. I don't know if Tim lost the llamas or I think he took them, lost them. And so I went back to find them.
Yep.
And, we're in a 30 mile by 60 mile wilderness. It's 300,000 acres looking for a couple animals. That's tough.
Well, we started at midnight. No, I think it was closer to 1.
Yeah.
Well, we got
by
off
the time
work,
we got there.
Yeah, 4 or 5 and drive over there 8 or 9 hours and then just hit the trail. And I thought, we're going in now? They're like, yeah, we're going to walk till it gets light. We'll just lay down for a minute or rest for a little. It wasn't laying down. I think that was my idea.
Yeah.
And we did. We walked till daylight and I had never been on anything like that.
Yeah. How old were you at that time? I remember the pictures.
Yeah. I must have been 14 or 15 because I wasn't driving.
Yeah.
But I was young, I thought I was fit and I was destroyed. That was horrible.
That country's tough.
It is. But it's like anything that you get back in there, it's usually, that's the piece that makes it worth it.
Yeah. Well, so now you've went, I guess we'll fast forward, and now, so that all sounds like overwhelming, but you were young and it probably was overwhelming. But now you've really, the mountains are home to you, it feels like. I mean, how has that journey been? And what do you say, I think you mentioned peace, or I don't know how you just said it, but what are the mountains like to you now?
Well, I guess that's a place I can go to get away from everything and just kind of be myself, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's day's full of life or whatever excuse or reason they have, but when going to Pisgah, it's a small area. People think, that Pisgah might be this great big area wilderness, and it's a pretty small area that we utilize, and it's home, right? But it's a mountain, and it's a you got to sacrifice a little bit to get up, and it's usually worth it. Yeah. So, and nobody messes with you. It's like nobody's going to dictate how you're doing the mountains. That's your thing. So we don't get that all the time, and I might take advantage of it more than I should. But.
Yeah, we usually find a lot of excuses to get over there and get some miles in. But so a lot of people, have mentioned they wanted to have you on the podcast, and I did too, because you've just obviously I love you. You're my brother, but also your story is powerful. I mean, I see you wearing your Recovery Strong hoodie there, and we can get into that. But when I just think of you now, and when everybody thinks of you now, it's just a very talented ultra runner, very talented runner in the mountains. And I mean, you're one of the best in this area. It's the world's a big place. There's some crazy runners out there, but for here, I mean, you're at the top of the list as far as guys who can get out there and crush miles on the mountains. Tell me about that evolution from first getting into running to where you are now.
Wow. Well, it started with trying to get in shape was the first thing, because I was a couple hundred bills and riding dirt bikes and thought I was a tough guy. I was couch tough and trying to get in shape. And then you were doing Western States 100. Mm-hmm. And that was, kind of, I had no idea what that really was, but you had asked me. I'd kind of started running, had done like an 8K. I didn't even know what an 8K was. I didn't even know how far it was. And I remember Pete had done it with us, and then Greg, and they crushed me. And it was like, this running thing's pretty hard. And then all of a sudden I was intrigued by you doing Western States, and that had become a big goal for you. And then you had asked me to pace you. Mm-hmm. And then I had back surgery, and I couldn't pace you. And that was like this thing that I remember I was just thinking about that this morning, running on a ridgeline trail with you, and you were just crushing me, and I'm just foot flopping across there thinking, I'll never be able to do this. But in that moment thinking, you know what? He's a man. I'm a man. If he can do this, I can do this. I just need to stick with it. Right. And that just kind of progressed. It was doing the 8K and getting past that and setting new goals. Gosh, I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's a journey. It's, everybody starts at whatever level they're at, and it can seem overwhelming, but then you just start chipping away. And then at some point you did a marathon, right?
Yep. I did the Eugene Marathon. Mm-hmm. And well, the first thing I had done was I'd signed up for SOB 50K. Mm. And that was one that I watched. I was healing up from the back surgery. And then, of course, I immediately signed up for another race because it was like, well, I was ready to do that. It was in the mountains. I mean, SOB 50K, you had told me about it all the time. That's the closest mountain race you can get. And so that's what I was going to do. Right. When I couldn't, I found something else. And that's when I had signed up for, it was a Frozen Trail 50K at Mount Pisgah. Mm-hmm. So that was officially the first time that I had ever gone any race other than I did a Shotgun Trail Blast 25K. Yeah. So I went from a 25K to a 50K, and then did the Eugene Marathon that next spring.
I see. So,
yeah, that was, and I did that 50K. I remember in a rain slick, wool socks, carrying a Gatorade, and almost died. It was raining. It was
pretty tough.
Those first ones are way worse than anything I've done now. Yeah. I mean, the first 2 miles I ran, I remember with Donavan, one afternoon, those 2 miles, I've been closer to dying than any 200 or 100 I've ever done. You
Yeah.
know, those moments when you first start trying to run, God, it's miserable.
Yeah.
It hurts.
People say that all the time. Like they have a hard time with a mile or a tough, they can't even fathom doing, say if we do like a half marathon a day or something like that, they can't fathom because those first ones for them are like you and like me. When I first started, it's like this doesn't, how? You're like wondering how people do this. But once your body gets used to it, and as I've said, your body gets used to what you ask of it.
Yep.
So if you haven't asked your body to run before, of course it's going to be hard. But once your body's like, oh, okay, this is what we do, it's what you do.
Yep.
And then, so how did you progress from that 50K? So that was a struggle. And then where did you have your first success or really felt like a runner?
Probably Tahoe 200.
Oh, really?
Probably 10 years later.
Wow. 10 years.
Yeah, because I had never really like focused on anything. It was just like, I just got out in the mountains. That was always, it was a good reason to get out, spend 15, 20 hours every weekend trying to go climb something or ski or just spend time in the mountains. But to actually like sit down on paper and say, I really want to be a successful ultra runner, it was Tahoe 200. And it was the second year. It wasn't the first one.
Did you get third the first year too?
Yeah.
So you got
behind Courtney.
You got third 2 years. And the first year, you're saying you weren't as intentional as you were the second year.
Correct.
But you still got third.
Yep.
Even though not being intentional. One thing I've noticed with you, I mean, you are up and down in ultras because we've run a few now. And it's like, I think maybe everybody goes through this, but maybe I notice it more on you just because I know you. But it seems like you get down, and then you're back crushing. And it's just like that. Maybe that's just the game of ultra running, especially those long ones. It's like you're going to have peaks and valleys because, you know, you go out too fast. Like in that one, that was the one I think. Well, the first one I fell, you got third, but there's times where I was like, oh my God, he's struggling. He is struggling. And
dying.
I don't know how this is going to go. And then you come back and you get fucking third. I mean, you beat a lot of good runners and right behind one of the best ever in Courtney.
Yeah. If it hadn't been for those pros.
Yeah, I know.
They crushed it.
If they wouldn't show up all the time.
Yeah, her and Kyle.
We'd be
Kyle
legends.
Curtin. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So 10 years. And what was, I mean, I guess, so you wanted to be in the mountains as much as you could. Was that to take away the urge to drink? Or what do you think was
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It filled my time because I can't be bored. I mean, I sit at home now and it's like, I feel like the laziest person in the world. And I used to just drink and watch TV.
Yeah.
And that was okay.
And you were fine with it.
That's what everybody did. That's what I thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now it's literally, you know, like this last week, you know, I got an hour and a half to kill. I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to go for a run. Maybe like 8 or 9 miles in. So.
And so, and speaking of that, like if you look at your volume now, I know we talked about this. I was talking with Nick about it the other day because he was in that contest to try to, who could run 50,000 feet of gain quickest in a month. And he was in, you know, with Sean Remington.
Oh yeah.
And so then we were talking about what you do. And tell me about what you do as far as volume and climbing. What's your goals?
My goal is 15 to 20 hours a week
of running.
And that's, and I try to keep that, you know, over 60 miles. So to do that, so like if I'm looking to not run a bunch, like it's early in the season, like that was when they were doing that challenge, like through January, February. Actually, I think I started in December. In December, it was, I wanted to get a lot of volume, but I wasn't worried about pace. So I started doing Pisgah, and I was doing it 20 times a week. And I did that for about 8 weeks. And that's like 60 miles a week. And that was just to kind of build my base. And then I'll shift that. Like now I need to be like 80, 90 miles a week. But I'll drop my elevation down to, you know, maybe 10 or 15,000. So it's the same amount of time.
Yeah.
It's just different, but
less climbing.
Yeah. But doing Pisgah, it's like every race I've ever done, I think to myself, I should have done this more. I should have done Pisgah more. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like you're climbing something, you're tired, and the math on races. I mean, most 100 milers do between 20 and 25,000 feet of climbing. You know, if you do Pisgah, you know, 24 times, you know, you're still not at 100 miles. You go run around the base a few times. It's pretty similar. I mean, it's not that far off.
Right.
So
and it's not a huge mountain, but you can get, I mean, there's places where you can get 1,000 foot of gain in a mile.
Yeah.
You know, there's that one, you told me about it. I think going up the straight up above the Arboretum maybe, but then also Nick told me one where if you go off the backside towards P Hill and then go down to that creek crossing on that road and just back to top, that's a mile. So normally the main trail is 1.5 miles for 1,000 feet of gain, but you can make it a mile and then just get that gain, because that's what it is. It's like you got to get those legs toughened up when they're beat down to still be able to climb at a decent speed.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, in the first couple weeks of that, it's like anything. It's miserable. I mean, it's everything you can do to get out. Then it feels like that third, fourth week, things start to kind of flip, and then you realize, you know, I'm running up it. And before it was a struggle to get up in 20 minutes every summit, and then it was 18, then it was 17, and then you know you start to feel that progression, and that's when it's hard to back out.
I know
it's
that
like, feels
good, doesn't it?
Well, it's just like, you know, my entire progression with just being in the mountains and running is just physically and mentally, I've gotten stronger and better. And, you know, you see those results and man, why stop?
Yeah, no, I know. It's like, you can't, it's like a fire that's going and you just want to keep putting wood on it.
But like you said, there's times it's almost out.
Yeah, you got to get down there and get some a little bit of kindling on there, start blowing on it a little bit, maybe
Maybe
shavings.
ask for some help.
Throw some gas on it, something. Well, yes, but someday when you're in shape, I don't think there's a better feeling than running mountains. To me, I feel like as strong as I've ever felt when I can run hard in the mountains through the woods.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
unstoppable.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish everybody could feel like that, actually.
Yeah. I do too. But you know, seeing how many people have gone up Pisgah with that book.
I know.
That's been awesome.
Oh,
that's
my
great.
God.
Seeing people post and share that. You know, we go up and we spend our time there, but we're only there for a sliver of the day. There's other people who are up there while we're working or doing whatever we're doing, and you see those names in that book and you realize there's a lot of people up here.
Yeah.
It's good.
That the book that Taylor's referencing is originally somebody who took the original book up there.
Carl
Llewellyn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I love Carl. God, he grinds hard. And here's a fun fact about Carl. I had shot this buck we had called the Legend because everybody would see it is up Marcola. It'd cross the road on the power lines all the time, and it was giant. And I was obsessed with this buck. We called it the Legend. It was just a huge blacktail. Somebody stole those antlers from me. But anyways, one of my last rifle kills, and me and Jeff Nilsson were walking up there. There's a piece of BLM, and sure as shit, the Legend was standing out in the unit up on top. And I shot this buck, and I can't even remember where I hit it. It must have been back or something, you know, with a 300 mag, so it did some damage. But anyway, it ran off, and rifles don't bleed that, you know, a wound from a rifle doesn't bleed like a bow, but it took off. So I had a few guys up there trying to help me track this thing down, and Carl actually found it. So this is back, this would have been 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're all from Arcola. He found it. We got pictures in the back of my truck of everybody, and Carl was the one. So now, fast forward 35 years later, Carl is still up there grinding the mountain. He's still got a big smile on his face. He's got the Roy Tough hitch cover on his truck. He's just been this guy who's been in my life in and out for forever. And so he took this book up there because he sees you all the time too. And so I think it said, Taylor Spike, you have mail. And it was just a leather-bound book, and people would sign it. I had my guests that I'd come on the podcast, they'd sign it. And then somebody took it. Is that right? Or did it disappear?
Yeah, somebody had wrote in there, "This is trash." There were some comments in there that were like,
"Of course."
I thought about tearing the pages out. I was like, you know what, this is part of the deal.
Yeah.
And then it was gone. And I had taken Paxton, my youngest one, and his buddy. It was on like a Sunday, and I said, "They're 14. They need to run, and they're not. They're sitting around doing nothing. So you guys are coming with me." So we took him up there. I said, "I'm going to show you the book." And then that's when we realized it was gone.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was gone. But we saw Carl on our way down, and we kind of had told the story, about I brought him up here. But he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll replace it. And then sure as heck, the next day he was up there with a new book.
Yeah.
A bigger book.
Oh, yeah. Well, now there's a new book up there, and there's new signatures in it.
Yep.
And that's kind of a cool little thing. But yeah, it's great seeing. And you see all ranges of people up there because it's not a crazy climb. I mean, you can do it if you have some time.
Yeah.
And we get up there, I've seen guys who, it's a struggle, maybe 300 plus pounds, a struggle to get up there, and they're up there. Then you see, some of the best runners in the area just crushing it. So it's like, it's kind of this, it's a draw for everybody just to come and be something positive, something to acknowledge others for their effort. And you get to the top of the mountain and you got the monument up there, and it's just like, feel like you won the day.
Yeah.
That's why we do it, right?
Yeah. Especially for the amount of years we've been doing it.
I know.
Have you ever thought about how many times you've been to the top of that thing?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Thousands, I bet.
Probably, yeah. It's
But it doesn't ever feel like that. When I go up, I don't think I've been up here thousands of times.
no,
It's like still that moment and that push and that run that you're thinking about, right?
it's still like, sometimes I'll go and it's like, well, I need a little bit of time to warm up, so I'll go and I run along the river and go out to the far gate, then go up. Because if you just go from the parking lot up the main trail and you push, that is freaking hard. I mean, it hurts so bad every time. That little pole right
Oh,
there.
I know. You have the first little bend to the left, and then you can kind of see up.
Yeah.
That's miserable.
Yeah,
Your legs feel like they're solid logs. They don't
Yeah.
want to move at all.
No, and if you push right there, of course, nobody wants to really push all the time. You kind of like just chop it up little steps. But if you actually push, oh my gosh, it gets, when your arms are tingling.
It took me 6 weeks. About 6 weeks of doing repeats on that, 15 to 20, to the point that I could run that whole first portion and feel pretty good. And then run the whole thing at that same pace. But it took, that's 80. Is that 60, 80 times doing laps right there to be like, oh, I can finally run this. And the progression, it's never like, oh yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be awesome. It takes that long.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So in regard to your climbing or vertical gain, did you say something the other day about 500,000 feet of gain a year? Is that your goal? Or what do you try to do?
I don't have like a goal per se of like mileage or elevation I'm trying to get every year, but it comes out to about that. It's about half mil. I think I've done 600, like almost 700,000. When you do the 200s, all of a sudden that mileage changes, and then because that's over a weekend or a week, and that impacts it quite a bit. People don't realize that, but it's usually around a half. I've gone up and down since we moved to Harrisburg. It dropped because when I lived, 6 miles or 8 miles from Pisgah, it was a lot easier to get over there. But I try to make it work. Yeah.
And then you're on Strava, so everybody's always looking at that. How does what do some of those guys do? Is that a big year for everybody? 500,000 or
the guys that I want to run with?
Yeah,
I'm pretty average. There's guys that are doing 130, 140 mile weeks with 30,000 feet of gain. I mean, they probably don't work as much as I do.
Yeah,
and they probably don't travel for work like I do. But they're crushing it. And I see those guys like that. I did that Red Mountain 55K last weekend, and the lead girl, I watched her bright Brooks jersey for 3.5 hours catching me. Every climb I look back, oh, gosh, she's still coming. And then of course she beats me. We're 2 miles from the finish. I'm standing in the middle of the road. My hamstring's locked up.
Oh man.
I'm just looking at the sky. She goes, "You okay?" I said, yeah, I'm fine. I know it's going to blow really hurt if I try to push it. So she pulls me, but she won JFK 50 miler.
That's a fast one too.
She's legit.
Yeah.
So those people who are beating me, they're putting in a lot of miles.
Right.
And that's, in my mind, that's the difference.
Yeah.
They're doing more.
I know. Isn't that's the cold, hard facts. I mean, talent is one thing, but usually, everybody who's doing that is talented. So who's putting in more work, essentially, right?
Yeah, who can put in the most work and recover the best?
Yeah, and their body holds up. Because there's guys who, there's guys who put in 200-mile weeks and their bodies just don't hold up to it.
No, to get to it. It's taken me a year. I always joke and say it's taken me a year running to add an additional 10, right? Just 10 miles to the week. So if I've been running for, 6 years, you're at 60 miles to get to get comfortably to 70 miles. It's going to take me another year running.
Right.
That's how I've
Get your body built up for that.
Yeah. You just don't go, you can go do it once or twice, but you'll be broke.
Yeah. I know. Cause you know as well as I do, to get a 100-mile week, that's 14 miles a day.
Yep.
And so that's fine. You can get 14 miles a day. You can get a weekend. You can get your 100-mile week. But what are you going to do the next week?
Yep.
And the next week.
Yeah. That's like I raced last weekend. It was like this week I would have loved to lay low, but that's not the deal.
No. I mean, you got to build on it because as you know, with those 200s, most of that race, you're beat up. I mean, say a 30-mile run, a 50K is a test when you first start. So you do a 200-mile race, you got 170 miles after that 50K.
Well, I joke and say everything after 10 is far.
Yeah,
And
it is.
I've also said that everything after 10 ain't nothing changing. It's not going to get any better than it is in that moment.
Right.
I mean, if you're 60 hours or 80, I mean, at Moab, when you and I did it, it's like at no point are you going to feel ever any better than you did at that first 10.
Oh man, that was a rough race. That was your first 200?
That was my, after we lost Donavan, that was what I decided to do, was do that with you. Yeah, that was.
So tell me about Donavan.
Which part? I guess.
I just you said after Donavan. So just to give context to that, Donavan, so it was your wife's son.
Yep.
And you were his stepdad.
Yep.
And he got in a car wreck.
Yep. He'd been in a car accident. I remember that day, plain as day. I had a dentist appointment at 7 a.m., which is crazy early. And I had saw it on the news, saw the pickup and thought, dumb kids, driving too fast, drinking and driving. And
You didn't know it was him at that time.
No. And then I was driving to the dentist appointment. My phone rang, and it was Pamela, my wife, sobbing. And then actually I came to your house. That was the first place I came. I didn't even go home. Mm-hmm. I had known what happened, but I needed to tell somebody. So I told you. And Donavan, I had came into his life. He was about 10. So that's a tough age for a stepdad to try to come into a situation. And we had our bumps in the road, and he'd straightened himself out, and then was killed in a car accident. Mm-hmm. So he was 21. Young kid, a whole life ahead of him, and he made some bad choices, but it's like all of us. We all grow up at a different rate, I feel like, and it takes a little while for some of us to get traction and get some direction, and he had got there, and then he got killed.
Yeah, I mean, I can't judge anybody. I could easily had the same fate. I mean, like you said, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of us get, I guess, lucky, you could say, and you don't have to pay the ultimate sacrifice like he did from those mistakes. Yeah, I mean, you wish as a young man you would know what type of impact your decisions make, but you don't.
You don't.
And I know you and Pam losing Donavan. I don't know, because I can't imagine what it feels like, but I just know that's been very painful, and you've done an amazing job trying to honor him. I know a few times together you've spread his ashes on some of these trips we've done and these races we've done, and keeping that memory alive. And I don't know. I mean, I know it's greatly impacted you, but I wanted, you mentioned Moab was your first one after Donavan. And so I just wanted the listeners to know what that reference entailed. And also it's really had an impact on who you are. It feels like to me from the outside in. I mean, you can explain that better, but yeah.
Well, watching your family suffer is hard. And for me, that was probably the biggest pieces of it, seeing how someone that acted like I did impacted their family when they're gone. And then seeing my family and seeing Pamela from laying on the couch, sobbing herself to sleep because she didn't know where he was, to holding his urn of ashes every night. I mean, that was a year for holding his ashes at night and falling asleep on the couch, right? And seeing how that impacts your family, you don't have any choice but then to do better, right? And to be the best version of yourself. And all those, trials and tribulations. And during that same time, we were forced to move, lost my job after 20 years. All those are really good reasons that probably everybody else would use to drink, right? Or do something they really shouldn't. But I had running. People were encouraging me to do it. People push you to do it. So it's like I was going to engulf myself in that and go bigger and go farther and go faster. And that's what started to drive that, was doing Moab with you, and then being like, I want to do this. I want to do it fast, and I want to do it faster.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really blame anybody for wanting to numb that pain. And that's where people turn to drugs and alcohol. It's like, because it hurts so bad, you just don't want to hurt. You're tired of hurting. And that doesn't change the pain. It just kind of delays it. The drinking. It's just like, I think how you've done it, dealing with it and being, the mountains are real. The emotions aren't going anywhere. It's actually more time to think, when you're out there. So I think it's more of a healthy way to deal with heartbreak in some ways, because you're forced to deal with it, not forced to numb it.
Yeah, you come out pretty focused after those. At least I do. Those first few weeks after those big events, usually I have a lot of clarity. You have a lot of time to think. You process your entire life in the first 12 hours, and you can do that in a 50 miler.
I know.
But to do it for 60 or 80, a lot of hope in tomorrow and regret in yesterday, right? It's it's pretty crazy.
On those, for me, when I do those big races, usually during the race, I'm thinking I should have done more, as you kind of mentioned. And after the race, I'm like, if I would have done this, I would have done that. Why didn't I push harder there? Do you have those same type of thoughts?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to, it's hard in the moment when you train all the time, and if you're not simulating it, and then when you're in the moment to say, this is okay, it's okay to feel this bad, because you don't want to, right? You just want to walk or quit or, find reasons. But, looking back on them, usually I wish I was done more. I did more, or focused somewhere else, or had done something a little bit differently. But I've gotten a lot better at that than, doing Tahoe as fast as I did. I don't know what I would have done any different.
Okay.
Those was like, I was tapped. That was the best I got.
Those were great runs to get third at that race too. And also it reminded me also, I was thinking back on Donavan, the pain in a race, that's going to ease. That's going to go away, And so it kind of, I know, when I think about losing my dad or when Roy died, it's just like, this pain that I'm dealing with is nothing compared to
what they felt in that moment they died.
That's life-changing pain. And not only for them, but for everybody who's left. And just death is so permanent. So it's like, I try to give context when I'm even running Pisgah, if I'm being, kind of a pussy, whatever. I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm going to be home. Or even I'll be home later today, or even in a 200-mile race. It's like, okay, that's a few days out of your life.
It's so temporary.
It's temporary. And it's like, it's really hard to give context to that, but it's true if we can. And then I've tried to also, it sounds easy, but enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. And I think back to when you paced me at Bigfoot. We were about, 130 miles in, middle of the night. I don't know what time it was, 1 or 2 in the morning. I think it was raining and pitch black, dark, rough country. And we stopped for a second, headlamps. And, I said something like, this is what it's all about, right? How lucky are we to be right here and feel like this? And, if you can have that mindset, it's just like, you have to earn what it feels like to be 130 miles into a race. and still have. It's just like that's a special place that most people would never want to get to. And we were there. And so I think it's important to enjoy what a sacrifice it took to be there.
Yeah.
And do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was the first.
Was that the creek?
It seems like we were just on, I don't know, we were kind of going across a flat. I can't remember.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, no, the other one was the other night in the creek, and we were trying to sleep in the middle of the trail, and people were passing us. You were getting so mad.
Yeah. Oh, that was. I went out way too fast in that race, and I was crushing everybody. I was like, I don't even know how many. I think they said hours ahead at mile 40, which isn't good. If you're hours ahead,
it's not good.
Because you come across, you go around, you kind of skirt around Mount St. Helens, all exposed, and so hot and so dry. And if you're pushing hard there, and it's like you don't really need to drink that much that early in the race, so I got so dried out. Then I got to 40, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're way ahead," and I was just like, "Oh my God, that's terrible." And then definitely hit the wall.
Yeah, but that was like the early years of the 200s. Nobody knew.
Right.
Nobody. People didn't know how to sleep and do all the things they do now.
That was
you
tough.
were just gonna crush it and win.
That was tough. But what an experience. And we were able to share that one. And that was, how far did you run in that one? Did you do 100?
156. Because remember, that was a week, like the week before I did Waldo 100K, and it was I'd gotten to 100.
Yeah.
You got to 100, and I was like, okay, I'm out. I'd gone like 60 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I picked you up at 40 something.
Okay.
And then like the almost last section I didn't do with you. The very last I did, but
Yeah.
anyways, I remember we got there and I'm taking my shoes off, and you're like kind of resting and just kind of regrouping, I should say. And you're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm out, man. I'm done. I'm not gonna run anywhere." You're like, "Whatever." And I was like, "What? I mean, really? Like, I'm supposed to be running like this whole thing?" And that was the furthest I had ever ran. Then it was just like, I'm doing this. I mean, we're doing it. We were trashed. We were. Remember how bad our ankles hurt from walking that dirt bike?
Oh, that was a rough race.
Miserable.
Yeah. But it's like, it goes to show that no matter how miserable you are, how bad you hurt towards the end. I mean, I was actually running good.
Yeah, like sixes on the road.
Yeah.
You were flying.
Yeah. And so if you can like remember that and go, yeah, this is terrible right now, but I know I've been here before where I didn't think I could go anywhere. And then I was running hard at the end.
Yeah.
I just got to get through this little, that's the key to those long races.
Yeah.
Just getting through those low spots.
You remember your pole when we were running down the road?
Did I break them?
Yeah, you made me go back and look for them. So Tracy could take them to REI and return them. I could never find it.
I don't know what happened.
Well, when you start running, it's like it got ahead of you and it hit the ground and you kicked it.
Oh.
And so when it hits and it like feels like it breaks your foot.
Right.
You stop, you're like, stupid. Threw it off in the brush. We just kept running. It's like, I'll come back. Never found it.
Never found them.
No.
But what a learning experience.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then it was, I had been terrified of 100. You know, I had tried to do 100, but I had never done, a cumulative miles, 140 or some miles we did that week.
Yeah.
Or that weekend. And it was a good perspective. You learn a lot being with somebody out there for that long, and being out there with somebody you know and that you trust, it makes it a lot easier, right? To follow along.
And then what was your first 200? Moab then?
Yeah.
That was okay, yeah.
And I was supposed to pace you there. And we only had one crew guy.
Yeah.
Remember? And you were like, well, you're going to be my crew. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I decided to run it the week before.
Right.
And you're like, well, you said you're going to do it. So I did my best.
Yeah. Oh.
And we had the camera guy that was, I can't remember his name.
Mark?
Mark.
Mark Womack from Sub 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was dying.
Yeah.
He worked hard. He did good, though.
He did.
But it was just us.
We got some good foot. That was, oh my God, that was so hard. That started off like hot as hell. I've never been so thirsty to start off a race.
We were sitting under that one tree by that watering hole, and we couldn't do it.
It was so
bad.
dirty and muddy.
You're like, I've drank stuff in Africa, and I'm not drinking this.
It was bad, but we were so dried out. Oh, that was terrible.
It was miserable.
It was terrible. Then I still feel bad that whatever night it was, we were going to try to lay down, and I don't know what everybody gets cranky, and I was like so burnt out. You were burnt out, and so something like kind of you were upset. What happened there?
That was going into the LaSalle's. Remember, it was like 9 degrees. This is how cold it was when we were on the highway, and then we climbed up on that, kind of getting up on like a mesa, and it started getting warm.
Yeah,
and you were feeling good, and it was heading towards morning, and I was a wreck.
Yeah,
I'm not a good morning person. I think I threw my pole then.
Did you?
Isn't that what I did? I threw my pole, and you're like,
something like that. Yeah,
whatever, quit being a pussy or something. You took off.
Yeah,
and left me.
Yeah, I was like, to me, and now I look back and I'm like, God dang, why wasn't I more so? But to me, I'm like, I'm struggling so bad myself. Yeah. I can't really, I don't have energy.
You were right too. You're like, you're the pacer. I mean, like, who am I to bitch? I mean, I should be, like the enthusiastic one that knows where we're going. And I had no idea. And I never do. Like, how many of those races we've done, you're like, how far do we have? And I'm like, I don't know, 20, 15?
Yeah.
You're like, you're always wrong. It's always wrong. Yesterday, Greg tells me, how far is it to the finish? I'm like, 2. It was 4.
Yeah. Well, and you know how when you're running a race and people will be like, okay, almost there, only a mile left. And if they're wrong, you're so pissed at that person. You're like,
I'm coming back for you.
Yeah, know the fucking race. What are you talking about a mile left? Because you're like, when you're done, mentally, you're like, they said a mile, I'm at a mile, I don't see the finish line. What is going on?
Yep.
And it's like your patience for knowing exactly. But like that night, I remember, I don't know how far we were into the race that time. You were having a rough spot. I was just like, I don't have energy for this. So I took off and I thought, well,
that's $130. 130 is where it is, I think.
Was that what? Oh yeah. My God. So brutal and so cold. Holy shit. But, so I took off and I thought, well, sometimes in those races, I mean, you see people again or whatever. And it's just like, did we see each other again?
At the top of going to Pole Creek, we were like 9,000 feet in the aid station. Remember, I came up, it was like a war zone. You were laying there.
Oh my!
You're like, oh, my feet hurt so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to regroup,
get
you changed up, and then we took off, and that was a whole nother. Those races are crazy.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah, that was the only time I've ever actually hallucinated or remember what I couldn't read Nathan on the back of your pack.
Yes, that's right.
And I kept hearing women's voices. Remember, I'm like, oh, I can hear them in the aid station. You're like, you don't hear shit. Like, no, I do. I didn't.
Do you remember that aid station? I can't remember which one it was, but it was down in the bottom, and it was so cold down there. But that's where people were sleeping. And did we try to lay down there? Was that at 160 or something? Or no, maybe not 160.
That is where we slept. That was the only time that we really actually laid down.
Right. Because we only slept for like 2 hours that whole time for 3 days.
Yeah, we had done like little cat naps.
There's like little cabins, or what was there?
There was like a canvas little tents.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and they had little wool blankets and heaters.
Yes.
We slept there for a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like 180, 190, because remember, we were on the gravel road, and you and I had said once you get to 200, I said, I'm not helping you anymore.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was going to beat you, but never happened. You dropped me. It was right after that. We were running on. I had a big old pack on, and you were on the gravel road, and I'd marked a spot. I could see the corner, and I'm like, okay, this is going to tell me how fast he's going. And you were doing like 7:30s, and I was doing like a 12-minute mile.
Yeah.
Yeah. The math wasn't good.
That I started to feel good towards the end again, and that was like, if you can kind of open up, and for me, and get a pace going, just like at the end of Bigfoot, if I can get, okay, this is what I do, I'm good here, because you know how it is when you're climbing, it's like you can, in your head, you're like, well, everybody's going slow now anyway, I don't need to go fast.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you're going down here, you're like, well, if I bomb down this, I'm going to blow out my quads. I need to be smart. But when it's flat, to me, I'm like, okay, this is what I do. I got to
start grinding.
If I can't open up right now, I'm never going to. And so it's like, to me in my head, like on that one, that was like a kind of a slightly downhill gravel road, wasn't it?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, it's on. And but so beat up by that time.
I ran into the ditch face first. I was asleep.
Oh.
And I came up, I looked around, there's 2 guys standing there just laughing. They're like, we were wondering what you were doing. I straight off the road.
Oh,
Face
man.
plant. So tired.
That's a rough race too. All those 200s.
Sleep deprivation.
Life-changing.
Yeah, that's some real stuff.
But then, so after that, then you've learned, and now with those third places at 2 consecutive Tahoes, do you feel like you got a pretty good idea how to run a 200, or are you just tougher?
Yeah, no, there's a method to it, and and that's helped me through all the distances and training mostly. Things that I thought hurt, kind of learning, what they feel like an hour and a half, 2 hours later when an injury might really be. You learn a lot about your body when you're running 200 miles.
Right.
So yeah, no, there's definitely a method, and it's, but it's so far and it's so hard to recover from.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was younger, if I was 35 or 40, then it might be different. But it's months till after I did Cocodona, because Cocodona was like 3 weeks before I decided to do it, and I was not in shape, and
Cocodona's 250 miles.
Yeah, and it's in May, so it's not like at the end in the summer. It's
right.
like it's been winter or spring, so
your body's not really used to the heat, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that and the mileage. I just usually am not running that, and so that was a good test of what I thought I was going to need to do it. But it played out really well. I think I was like maybe 11th or 12th there.
Were you? I thought you were 9th.
Okay, I'm not really good at my finish time.
Oh.
I've never won. So I'm
Yeah,
always
I know. But I mean,
okay.
Make no mistake. I want to make this clear because we've talked about like times where you didn't do good or I beat you or whatever. It's like now you are way better than me. You're finishing up there with like the elite runners. So Taylor his journey has been amazing because he started off just like everybody, kind of struggling, wondering why you're doing it. Then you kind of have a purpose to why you're doing it. Then you're running for a bigger purpose. Maybe it's, to be sober, maybe it's to honor people we've lost. Maybe, Donavan, maybe it's for different reasons, but now for whatever reason, you're like an elite runner and I'm not. I'm not. So we run together sometimes, we race together sometimes, but you are way better than me. So I just want to make that clear. And I'm very impressed with how good you are at this. And it's been awesome to watch. But I think you got 9th at Cocodona, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll say I'm really surprised. I am. I look back at those and I get on Ultra Sign Up and look at my finishes. So I'm like, man, I had a freaking run.
Yeah.
Like last year was a great run for me. I mean, I had totally fell apart in June, but then all my races were second, thirds, and I was doing, I'd definitely probably get my age group in those.
Well, around here, you win all these races, don't you?
Yeah, unless I got my arch nemesis Nate Jacques.
He's tough.
He's such a beast. And the one time I had him beat, I stopped to tie my shoe a mile from the finish. He ran past me laughing.
But that was shotgun.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Which I've owned that one a few times. You know?
And you've won Frozen Trail here.
Yep, a few times.
Yeah. So that's why I say, like locally, you're tough to beat. You're a beast. Now you start getting in those big races, and it's hard. They're pros.
Yeah, those guys are good at it.
You have a full-time job,
and they're usually younger.
Yeah, definitely. And you're so I'm 55. You're 45 now.
Yep.
Yeah. And how do you feel physically? Like, do you feel like you were better when you were younger, or you're the best you've ever been right now?
Oh yeah, no, I crush my old self.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely my way better shape.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I think how I should have felt when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Feel good.
Yeah.
I got aches and pains. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got a list of things that need fixed. And someday those are going to prevent me from doing more. But that's just part of the deal. I'm not going to hang out my hat because my knee swells up every now and then. I'm going to run some more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been doing a great job. As far as diet, you've went from keto to non. What are you doing right now for your body?
I'm on the calorie king kick right now. Calories is calories.
Whatever it is, carbs.
Yeah, I did 2 years of high fat, low carb. I mean, I was checking my blood every morning, make sure I was in ketosis and that I was following the protocol and not dirty keto. Or I think now it's probably a lot easier to buy stuff that says keto. Mm-hmm. But this was 5-6 years ago when when it first it kind of started, so it was different. The resources weren't there, so you were forced to eat a very different way. And I found a lot of success in that. I mean, I ran SOB 100K. I'd had a really good time there, and I never ate. And I drank water and took in salt.
Wow.
And I felt good.
And what was your time in that? 62 miles?
I think I was like,
Is it 9?
I think it was like 10, 20 or something like that. I think it was like 5th or 6th.
Yeah, that's a good 100K.
Maybe better. I like I said, I don't.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember my marathon best time over here, and I couldn't remember what it was.
Really?
Yeah. So I just, yeah.
I think it was it Echo? Or that, isn't there a marathon over there you did?
Columbia River Powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. The year I thought I won, someone else did. Oh. Yeah. I think I went must have been like 2:58. I probably snuck in just under 3.
Under 3.
It was a week after the Bear 100.
Okay.
And I walked an entire mile. And I thought I'm going to go 2:40 someday. And I couldn't ever bring myself to try again.
God, those road marathons when you're pushing like that.
You're sprinting.
I know.
You ever a 6-minute mile for that long?
Yeah.
You did Eugene this last year, your fastest, didn't you?
No, not my fastest.
Okay. Well, it was probably good.
No, it was
wasn't soft.
2:54.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because I've never beat yours.
Yeah.
Yours is 2:51?
2:50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where was that?
New York.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And then that Boston there was 2:50 also. So I've never, probably that was the best chance, but I wanted to kind of stay around Lance. But I think that was the best chance I ever had to get in the 240s. And I didn't push like I could have because I wanted to be at the finish with him. But breaking that 250, tough.
Yeah. That was a good one. We were all watching on TV. I remember Trace and everybody trying to message each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
250. That's legit. Super legit.
I mean, it's not 240 though. It'd be nice to get in the 240s someday.
Yeah.
I might have seen those days come and gone though.
That's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. Yeah. The last Eugene one was when Truett wanted to make Boston. So he had to beat 3 hours.
Okay.
And, then I was like, okay, he needs to break 3 hours and he's not beating me. So that was like my motivation to push there. But yeah, flat marathons are rough. So this year, what's your plans for this year for your races?
I have the Canyons 100-miler next month, the end of April.
Where's that?
Auburn, California.
Oh, so Western States.
It's on that trail, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to do like 24,000 feet of climbing, and it gets me nuggets for UTMB. So if I can get the nuggets to be able to put in for the lottery.
What's the nuggets? Is that like a qualifying thing?
Yeah, you have to have a nugget, I think is what it's called, or a stone. Maybe I made up the nugget part.
Okay.
It sounds cooler.
Yeah.
You have to have a stone to be able to put in for the lottery.
Oh.
So the bigger race you do, like 100, you get 8 stones.
Oh, I see.
So, and there's some age group win stuff there that could be appealing. I think, I don't know what that really means. It could help my chances in the UTMB, and I feel pretty fit. So April race, and then the end of July is Crazy Mountain.
Crazy Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to race Nate, my arch nemesis. But
Is he going to do that too?
yep. But I've never done 100 with him, so I'll crush him.
Think so?
I hope so. I'm going to tell him
That
so.
sounded pretty confident. You said
well-
I'm going to crush him.
That's the plan.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you got to believe in yourself, right?
Yep.
So that race, you paced me at that race last year.
Yeah.
And you ran the back end with me.
Yep.
From 40 some to 100, right? 47 to 100?
Yeah, something like that. It was like, yeah.
You
no,
ran
60
like
something.
You ran like 30 some miles.
Yeah, it was like 35 miles or something.
And then Mike ran the other 20 some miles with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. God.
Tough
That race
country.
was rough. That
tough
race
country.
is rough. It's like that. I can't remember. So I think the first half must be the hardest, right?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
when
where
you
all
guys
the
were
climbs is?
That's when you were in the mountains. More so than the back half when it was like we're running through a grass meadow.
1,000,000 degrees. It was hot that day.
And the road it was pretty miserable.
Yeah, but that's now I remember the pictures where we're pointing up at where we had to go.
And there's no
through
trail.
through the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough race, dude.
Yeah.
First year they ever had it was last year, and I think only one person broke 24 hours.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
My goal was 30 hours. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a hard one because I had all that climbing and it's the first time they've ever done this pretty rugged country. I was thinking, if you get under 30 hours, that's a good run. And then I couldn't even do that.
Yeah, just finishing those though. I mean, it never matters how fast you do it. It's, it's just that you get it done.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we talked about. That's all part of the deal. It's you get what you put into it. They're hard.
That one too. Also, I had messed up on my salt and I wasn't taking enough salt in. So my body was so screwed up.
You were all jacked up.
Oh my God. I've never had my arms swell and legs swell. And it's like, I don't know what I did to my body. I was also trying the keto thing.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of issues in that race.
Yeah. And we were laughing because all of us who were with you were like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. And you're like, this isn't good. And we're like, it'll go away.
Yo, man.
But it hurts.
That was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
especially when your body starts doing weird stuff, that's what gets scary.
Yeah.
Because especially if you've never experienced it, it's like, is this my liver failing? Or because trust me, well, we both said in those races that sometimes we wish that something really bad would happen.
Yeah.
At Bigfoot, we were hoping a mountain lion would attack one of us. And
know.
then we could quit. But then we're like, well, then I'd feel like I'd have to go on in your memory. We're like, well, then that's not going to work.
Yeah. It'd have to kill both of us.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I remember in Montana at the Crazy Mountains, man, I ran with some guys. God, that one kid, he's actually really good. Now I can't remember his name, but he's good. He does kind of younger kid doing crazy stuff. But I also ran with this kid from Texas, and I thought he was doing so good, he's definitely going to finish. And then he ended up dropping. It's like you see these super tough people that look so good, and then I don't know what happens, but it gets overwhelming, those races. So much ups and downs in 100 even.
Yeah, I've quit. I quit at Cascade Crest. That was a bucket list race I really, really wanted to do, and I dropped at 50 and slept for like 8 hours and woke up and went, I'd still have 13 hours to do the last 50. Oh. And why didn't I just sleep? And I was going too fast, got ahead of myself. But then in the end, that was the first time I really dropped it. I was like, I should have just, I knew better. I knew better what. And that was kind of a shifting point and kind of focus on some training, right? It's like going out too hard and trying to win isn't smart.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. You can learn a lot in those races. I did want to touch on, your dad, Greg, my stepdad, who, people who've read my book and heard me talk, I've had quite a history. Greg, when I was young, he was like, couldn't stand him. And it's just like, he wasn't my dad. He was drinking this whole thing. And I was like probably the worst kid ever to try to be a stepdad to. And now I see Greg now, and it's like a totally different person. But your guys' relationship, I'm not jealous, but I'm happy. I'm happy you have that, a dad that you can share so much with. So I'm not jealous at all. But it's amazing to see how, well, I knew he's tough because I was always scared how tough he was. He was like, this guy who drove a roller every day out in the sun, just come back, just, smoking cigarettes, the meanest person I've ever been around, it felt like. And then I was like in the crosshairs. But now I see him and he's saving people's lives. He's out running, doing 100-mile races. He just did a 50K yesterday.
Yep.
And saved somebody out of a burning building last week.
Yeah.
Tell me about Greg.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, kids in a blended family, that's a hard thing.
Yes.
Donavan, same, very, very similar. And it's really hard. Like you had made a comment before about having to go through things ourselves and not realizing the impact that we have. But trying to raise a son and watching my dad, I remember him getting football tickets to a Duck game on the 50-yard line. Hey, you want to go? No way. I wasn't going to go with him.
With Greg?
Yeah, because he was drunk and he was goofy. And I was at that age like, yeah, I don't want to hang out with that guy.
Yeah.
But, he sobered up. And that's the version that I ended up getting, right? Was this sober guy who's trying to make up for a lot of mistakes. You and Pete had moved on. And he went out of his way to try to fix, whatever he thought he'd screwed up with me. And he and I we're best friends. You know, but it wasn't always that way, right? You know, growing up, your dad still sucks. You still know way more than him. You're still going to challenge him through and through. But, you know, yesterday, there he is, hands on his knees at mile 27, coming up a sand dune, 4 miles of sand on the Oregon coast, hands on his knees, and he's groaning. And I yell, "This is what you get for grounding me all those times." And I can laugh about that. I mean, how lucky am I?
Yeah.
I mean, that's having him now and seeing myself in him, you know, a lot. You know, that times drives me nuts. But then I realize, you know, how to navigate it. Right. I've grown up a lot, and he has too. And yeah, he's a beast. He's just funny, but he's got
Tough.
those guys were all raised by ranchers and guys raised to go to war, right? So their mentality and the way they apply pressure is very different than how we do. And, you know, that's coming back from Vietnam and him being an alcoholic. That's, you know, he says running's changed his life and has given him perspective in his life he never had before. So but that's 50, 60 years later. I mean, he's 75.
75.
Yeah, in July he'll be 75.
And out there doing 50Ks.
In 7 hours.
God, I know. So I always knew he was tough. I mean, like I said, he had that upbringing over there in Echo, Oregon, grown up on a ranch. Doesn't get any harder than being shipped off to Vietnam, coming back and working construction his whole freaking life. It's, I don't know. That's about as hard as it gets. You know, that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, you know, in some ways, as you know, growing up, I hated him, but in some ways, you know, and I think Mom told me this, that maybe he was trying to prepare you, and maybe he did make me tougher. Maybe he did. It felt I didn't see any positives at that time, and I couldn't wait to get out of there, which is why I moved out. One of the I had a girlfriend too, so maybe that was an excuse, but was a big reason why I left when I was 17. But, you know, now I'm so thankful for him. I see him, and it's not a negative when I see him. My feeling is a positive, and I'm happy to see him. And it took a long time for that. And now, you know, when I see what he did last week and just how, you know, helping that woman out of that burning building, I just have a sense of pride, and I'm very proud of him. And I'm, you know, I don't know. It's just this life deals us crazy hands sometimes. And I'm very thankful for him. And, you know, if it wasn't for him, there'd be no you, and there'd be no Megan. And I'm thankful for what he's given my mom too, because a woman having to have 2 young kids and find somebody who would take that in, as you know, with Pam, with Donavan, it's not easy. That's a lot. That's a lot for somebody to come in and take the responsibility for.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity to say, this ain't for me.
Right.
That's the part that, you know, blended families are nuts. I mean, I just, you know, it's textbook. You know, when you look back on some of it, it's like, so here's the older stepbrother who's successful and hardworking, right? Charismatic. And then Pete, you know, is having babies when he's a kid. And then there's me, who's a black sheep dipshit growing up. And then Megan goes to U of O and gets her, I don't know what her degree is in. I don't even want to say, but
smarter than all of us,
right?
For
so
sure.
It's like, you know, looking back on it, blended families are just crazy. And now Pamela and I have in Paxton, it's like, it's a lot easier. The things you can say to your own kids, you can never say to a step kid.
Yeah.
You know, and but you know, it's I learned from you and him. You know, it's that just plugging along, right? Keep your head down, keep grinding, keep hammering, right? It's a mentality, and I think we both got that from him, and just that hard work piece. But Mom's a beast too.
Yeah.
All those years of jazzercise.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Hours and hours.
No, she was, and then also it made it a little bit tough because she was like a super hot mom back then. So like the kids you go to school with, they're always like talking about the hot mom. I think they're called MILFs these days. But yeah, she was like in shape, like had a like big smile, great personality. but yeah, she worked her butt off too.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was like the only thing. I don't know. She was like the most positive thing in my life for sure, and a tough. It was hard for her because I would always try to make it like you have to choose between me or Greg, you know, because I'm like, and that's a no-win situation. She needs a husband. It's hard.
It's amazing to me seeing kids who have step parents, like stepdads, and that they all seem cool and happy. It's almost weird to me because I've seen it. I've raised, kids in that situation, and man, it's hard. It's hard. I can't imagine being the kid on the other side of it after raising a son doing that. And just listening to your experience and being part of that, it's to see this guy come in to take your mom. It's like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Super hard for a kid to process and to get them just to be okay with it.
Yeah, definitely. What do you remember? So Pete was closer to you in age. Did you have a different relationship with Pete growing up? Because Pete's my younger brother, or everybody's my younger brother and sister, but he was closer in age to you. Did you guys have more of a connection?
No, it was very similar to your and I's. Yeah, it was. He was having kids. He had a big kid.
I know.
And he had moved out super early. Maybe they lived next door, but he wasn't living at home, right?
Yeah, he had a kid in high school.
Yeah.
And great athlete. I mean, I was never as good as an athlete as he was, but he had to deal with a lot because he had Ashley when he was in high school.
Yeah. So yeah, no, he was growing up. It was, not a ton.
Yeah, you were kind of on your own a little bit, but with Megan, right?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, that gap was big enough, and you guys had moved on, and yeah, it was Megan and I, and being raised by Greg, because during the winters he was never working.
Yeah,
right, doing road construction, and yeah, it was interesting. Lots of top rom and spam. I think about it now as a parent, and it's just, I know the times are different, but I don't know.
Well, I can't blame him too much because when I had to be in charge of feeding my kids, it'd be either waffles or chili.
Yeah.
So Greg actually did used to make some weird casserole thing with mashed potatoes and hamburger. And do you remember that?
Oh yeah, with the cheese.
Cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he actually,
tater tots.
Yeah, he actually could do something. As far as cooking goes, but yeah, I don't know. When did he get sober? As far as when you were growing up, was it after you got out of high school?
No, I was 13.
13. Okay.
14, yeah.
Okay.
About the same age as Paxton is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrecked his pickup in the driveway.
God.
And he came in. I remember looking over his shoulder and wondering what was going on. And I remember I could see it plain as day. He'd walked away and it was Serenity Lane. And I knew what it was from commercials on TV,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So yeah, that was the start of his journey.
Oh.
Through Thanksgiving and Christmas. He was in rehab.
Really?
Yeah. I remember he got to come home so we could get a Christmas tree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a positive, negative during and that whole thing, but life-changing. And it's just like, you wish everybody who struggles with alcohol, which is a ton of people, could see. He's a different person now than what he was growing up. And it's like a whole different, it's a different existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more positive, inspiring people.
Yeah, I got to hand it to Mom though. That's the one I always think about. Like Pamela, the same is like to stand beside somebody while they go through that. What an opportunity to leave.
I know.
You're in rehab. You messed up. You made all these bad choices. You were drunk that whole time. See ya.
Yeah,
but they don't.
Be definitely easy to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they hunker down and stand behind them and do everything they can to make it right.
Yeah, she's been very strong this whole time and been through so much too herself. And I don't know, his life isn't easy, but all we can do is, we look back on what we've learned, the relationships that we've had. Like, I'm so thankful for our relationship and being able to share running. It's like you don't hunt as much anymore, but we still have that connection with the running in the mountains. And you're also in the mountains in the winter all the time. I know Tanner's mentioned wanting to get up on some of the sisters and this and that. I said, well, talk to Taylor. He's climbing those things all the time. So what do you do in the winter?
We do a lot of like backcountry skiing. We'll pack in, we'll skin in somewhere and climb something. We'll like Diamond Peak. I've been on Diamond Peak in February now a couple times. And it's a big local peak and it's a 12-mile slog and like 6,000 feet of climbing. And it's an all-dayer, and it's one of those, it's 8 hours to get up and 1 to get down, because you're skiing down. But it's just it's a ride that you get after all that effort. It's just a...
When can you get up on the sisters?
Weather breaks is your biggest thing, but really it's going to be probably June. I bet you it's July this year.
Yeah, that's the first time you can get up there.
Yeah, I mean I've been up there. You can get up there any time of the year, but condition, depends on what you're trying to do.
Right. To hike it and ski it. You've done that in the winter too?
Yeah. Yeah. Off the South Sister.
Oh, okay.
Off the South. I don't know why the middle, those are slogs.
Yeah. Middle's in the middle. I mean, it's hard to get to the middle.
Yeah. But even the South can be, because they closed the highway. That goes across there. So
that's
if you have a snow machine, you can cheat and get in a little bit closer, but I'm not that cool. I'm just walking a lot.
I know. Do you have any? We did that or we didn't do the FKT, but we had it in our mind. But do you have any? Because we were trying to do, I think we did the Three Sisters, then Broken Top, and then I ran over and did Bachelor. And those guys do that so freaking fast. It's insane how fast they are.
Yeah, the 5 peaks.
It's
like 6 hours. I don't know. It's something nuts.
I don't know what it was, but took me a lot longer than 6 hours. But do you have any FKT attempts you're going to go after?
I really want to have. There's a Corvallis to the Coast is a trail that they cut just recently over the past few years, and Ashley Nordell and I 1 year did it. Like when they first opened it, and it's pretty funny. We're like, oh yeah, we did it, no big deal. And like a couple weeks later, this girl did like a ribbon cutting ceremony because she had hiked it. Oh, and we're like.
We just did that.
I guess we didn't know anything. And they do kind of an alternate course. So I was trying to get her. I want her to crush like the FA.
Who, Ashley?
Yeah.
God, she's good.
She's a beast.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to get her to do it so I could have a good reason to run 60 miles before my 100.
Yeah.
And then just push her because I think she can get like low 9s. And that would be pretty cool. It's local. She grew up in that area, it's just up the road from us. And that's a 61 miles from Corvallis and ends right on the beach.
Oh, okay.
So it's a pretty cool course, and it goes up over close to Mary's Peak. So it says, but
yeah,
maybe that. Otherwise, work's so busy. I travel so much, and I just have what races I do on my list and try to focus on those.
Well, with Ashley, I know I had never run with her before, but we did. What was that one we did?
Diamond Peak.
Yeah. God. And me, you, Ashley Nordell. And I was like, who is this person? She can freaking run.
Yeah, she's a beast.
I didn't know she was such a stud.
Yeah.
That was a great day though.
She's like the classic school teacher, like quiet. And then all of a sudden you're doing 100-mile weeks. That's like a thing you do.
No, I know. She's just freaking good.
Yeah.
I don't know. She wins, doesn't she?
Oh yeah. I dread racing her. I don't know that I've had to. Oh no, she did. She crushed me at Mary's Peak 50 miler, and I ran that thing like 8:30.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like 12,000 feet. And she crushed me.
Yeah, I don't know. She's kind of under the radar. I don't know if probably people in the ultra running world know her, but I hadn't really paid attention too much. And it was like that day, I was like, wow, she's really good. But I don't know. There's some good local people around here. Nate Jockwell, like you said, you're going to race him. Where was that one at?
Crazy Mountain in Montana. Yeah.
He usually does Hurt 100. Of course, we know Candice Burt. She's still doing her ultra every day for 100 and how many days now?
I don't know. Every time I see it, I just feel lazy. Like, I can't believe I only ran 6 miles.
Yeah, so I know people have talked shit about me saying that I've done a marathon a day, which is like, that's broke up and it's like only getting ready for 200. So I'll try to do, multiple marathons in a row. And like people would say, well, that's impossible. I go, you don't know these freaks out here, because now Candice Burt, and you can follow her, it's Run Candice Run on Instagram, but she's like 118, 120, I don't know, of ultra marathons in a row. consecutively and doing 50Ks, 31 miles a day, and still going.
Well, and she threw the Hurt 100 in there too.
She did the Hurt, flew over to Hawaii, did the Hurt 100 in the middle without missing a day, and still did ultramarathons every day before, every day after. And just the world record was, I think, 23 or 28 ultramarathons consecutively. Now she's 100 days over it.
Didn't they start like a day apart?
I'm not sure, but she, so
Candice is crusher.
she is amazing. But you got these people in these ultra running world, people that the general public doesn't know about, that are just insane.
Yeah.
And it gives me, I don't know, it's kind of sobering to think about what's possible. So I think I'm working hard, and I look at some of these people and I'm like, man, or even you, when I look at you and I think of you doing 500,000 feet of gain a year, that's unreal, but you're out there doing it.
Got nothing else to do.
Well, yeah, you could sit at home and drink beer like you used to.
I could.
Yeah. This is a little better option, huh?
And that hurt more.
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah. Mostly just the regret and the waking up the next morning going, what am I doing with my life? So it feels good to, I know, you are an inspiration to a lot of people. I know people follow you. I know your recovery strong connection has inspired a lot of people. Do you want to talk about what those guys have done and how you're working with them?
Yeah, those are my boys.
Yeah.
I went to go hung out with them last weekend in St. George, Utah, and it's just a group of guys with a new focus and a new reason, and it's just to do better. Mm-hmm. We're not out trying to make money or do anything other than just be inspiring and make the right choices. Jared and the guys at Recovery Strong have been super helpful, and it's one thing to invest in people, but it's another thing to actually invest in the person and try to learn from them. I'll go spend time with those guys, and they're who I want to be, right? And that's who they are to me. When I try to look up to somebody that's made the mistakes I've made or whatnot, that's where I go, is those guys.
Mm-hmm. And how long has it been since you've drank now?
I'd actually put thought into this the other day.
You did?
Yeah. So Paxton's 14. So it's about 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's about 13 years. And then the pill piece has been about a little less than about a decade. So,
yeah. So, I mean, if you looked at your life when you were drinking and your life since you've been sober, night and day different, huh?
Yeah, very. Yeah. It's but in the moment, I never, that's what I try to tell people is you don't realize what you're doing. You think it's okay as everybody else is doing, but you have way more purpose than that in life. Like listening to Nick on here the other day, that's it. It's like, we need to do what we can to make sure that people can do better. Mm-hmm. If we can make them smile or inspire them, or I was telling Nick, it's life beyond the desk, so if you can get people past the desk and, living their life a little bit, that's my goal. I've made a lot of bad choices. I've made a couple good choices that have positively impacted my family and my life, and then others. And I just want to keep doing that. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Nick did say that he was wondering what his purpose was. He's like, he wanted to be a bow hunter. He wanted to be a bodybuilder, but he's like, what am I really supposed to do? And it's like, just, hug people.
Yeah.
Just be a positive influence. And it feels like that's, in that same vein, that's what you're doing. And it's like, I always see people talking about you, people saying, I saw your brother, and it's always this positive, people bring you up all the time to me, and it's all good. It's like how you've made a positive impact on their life. And so whatever your goals are, or whatever you've been through in life, all I know is what you're doing now. And it's you should feel proud. I mean, you're helping people, you're pulling back the curtain on what's possible to people, and you're encouraging people, and they're seeing you and they want to do more. So it makes me feel very proud to be your brother.
Yeah, that's super humbling. It's good to know that, right? Because you don't hear it a lot of time. You get little messages, but it's an honor to hear that from you.
I hear it all the time. I mean, I'm so proud of you. you know, what we've been through in life, and you being so much younger than me, but you know, we're family. And the times we've shared now are some of my most cherished, the races, and just seeing you every time. It's like it when I see you, I'm always like, I feel good. I feel it's to me, it's, I don't know. I'm just really proud to be your brother. So, thank you. Thank you for how you've enriched my life and what you're doing for others, and just the example you're setting, to, I don't know, people can learn. I mean, you've learned lessons, and people can maybe learn from your journey too. And, that's what life's about. And I wanted to get you on this podcast, and I wanted to be able to, I just think that your story is important, and I wanted to help share it. So thank you for coming today.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me be part of your journey, man. It's super humbling watching you. Just walking in here is pretty awesome. Even for me, because I'm your brother, but it's just to know that you're doing this, and it's what you've always kind of wanted to do. It's just, and we've heard about it for years, and to be part of it is super humbling. Appreciate it.
Well, I love you. Keep up the good work, and we're going to keep making those positive memories.
Love you too.
All right.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my feel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault. They want someone to blame. They send their hate. It fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough. I am the change, the fuel in dirt. Feeling like Cam Haynes.